Theory, where we give you a political and sociocultural analysis to arm you with some examples and some F of X's to better facilitate your life such that you can get your eyes on the prize and find your fulfillment. Today's topic, I'm just going to go over some musings here, some of my thoughts from the weekend, particularly alongside some of my tweets here, and a little bit of a moment to reconcile what it means to be kind in the face of all this stuff of people struggling with their masculinity and everything associated. In particular, and that's not to be like, let's have a moment of kindness here, but that is to say that I saw this video, and you guys have probably seen that I posted about this video, but also this video has circulated every once in a while, and it's this poor guy that just really looks like he's every combination of subordinate, but in like a way that isn't off-putting, insofar as it's not like an act, or it's not like truly like subordinating for the sake of some sort of feelsy thing. This poor guy looks like he's, subordinating to this girlfriend who's like talking down to him in a way that strikes you as he thinks he's happy, or he thinks he likes this stuff because it is his one chance at affection. It's his only understanding of what it means to have affection. And he really does seem to have no clue what it means to really have self-esteem. So I want to go over that, and I want to go over a broader picture about all this stuff, because I come off as like an angry freak, right? Mad at everything methods, as some of you guys were saying, and I come off as like, oh, fuck you, you got to be an alpha, whatever. But I want to take a moment to really sort of provide some nuance to all this stuff. So before we start with that, be sure to like, subscribe, retweet, reply, Marchese Max. You share it and everything like that. If you would like to send a super chat or donation, entropystream.live/Marchese Methods. And if you would like one-on-one coaching, you can head on over to marchesemethods.com for one session or 4 sessions up front for a discount. And you can DM or email me marchesemethods@proton.me for access to my Discord for $5 a month, where you could text me all day, every day, and I give you all sorts of advice and guidance and base therapy and everything. So some mini thoughts here, some mini takes here. I was doing some research this morning, just trying to get my thoughts together for this show. And LOL, World War III going off, popping off, because the United States, all in one weekend, it escalated its activity in Venezuela, which we all already knew, and I did a show about that. And if you forget, or if you don't understand the premise, long story short, there was the Monroe Doctrine, that is that the United States is responsible for the Western Hemisphere. That's our sphere of influence, and makes sense because everywhere else it doesn't really matter, because we're separated by 2 huge oceans. But if we have great power competition asserting influence in our hemisphere, well, that's sort of encroaching upon our borders, and then they can do everything from participate or ascertain our trade routes, to invade, I guess, to sap us of support, extract support of our middle power allies in the region, and our access to them and their resources and everything along those lines. So that is what's going on. And Venezuela is aligning itself and providing a sort of beachhead for Chinese influence. So the United States is trying to topple that regime. Of course, they offered, because they knew they couldn't take us on, Maduro offered to just LOL, give it all away. And neocon faggot Marco Rubio just, of course, said, no, we got to attack them. And I think that's just a means by which to assert that the United States is willing and able to topple a regime, and is sort of aggressive in that way, to signal to Iran and every other regime that we might be challenging a little bit, that we're willing and able to... Why does it say encoding overloaded? Is that what's been going on? Because no, I think it's okay here. My friends have been telling me that the streams have freeze every couple frames, and I was wondering what. I haven't had a chance to investigate or fix that, but this thing looks like it's ruining that. I gotta get a haircut. Sheesh! Look at that hair. Anyway, sphere of influence, Chinese beachhead influence in Venezuela, and so we are challenging that. I had such a good thing. I gotta not get distracted here. But we're also increasing our activity in the South China Sea, and now we're providing rhetoric for the Nigerian thing going on, the persecution and murder of Christians in Nigeria. So, a lot going on with that. And I think the worry, that's what I'll say, the Marco Rubio problem, and I think that's that signaling to the other regimes that we're willing and able to challenge as a sort of deterrent, to actually going to war with them, because we can't challenge them the way that we would love to think and say that we could challenge them. We think we're such tough guys and all that stuff, and in a way we are, but I mean, we got like raped in the Middle East by a bunch of like doo-doo dodo heads. For example, I was in the Army, and one of our stories about the system we operated, the Shadow, it's a drone. It's a little bit more sophisticated than the remote control drones, though. It had computers and everything. And so it was the V2, because V1, those boneheads figured out how to like hijack them with like a rock and a clothing hanger as like an antenna. And we got like raped on that, and they just like crashed them all the time. And we had one that crashed, and then from that crash, they deduced that what they were able to do with it. So this United States stuff, I mean, we got raped in the Middle East. We're not exactly the big, strong, tough guy, epically epic military that we at LARP that we are. And just to provide you some insight, like the basic premise is no amount of fucking training is going to stop a bullet from flying through your head. So this idea that somehow we have like superpowers or something like that. Now, granted, we have numbers and we have the logistics and we have supplies and we have sophisticated weaponry, but so does the rest of the world. And we also, you can't defeat some of these tactics, these guerrilla tactics, as evident in the Middle East, which is ironic because the United States won the Revolutionary War by using guerrilla tactics. So now we know that our Defense Secretary or Secretary of State, in a way, knows that, and we know that resource-wise, we're actually stretched pretty thin, and thus we cannot actually really challenge these middle powers as well as we would like, or not, at the very least, not at such a great cost. And so these characters rightfully try to signal, just sort of provide the red cape, I guess, to the bull, or what's the phrase? Provide a front that to our ability to challenge. And so now, and we don't have that manufacturing capability, as I mentioned on one of our streams, or as many of you might be knowing from watching other shows and all that. We don't have the manufacturing power we used to, because we outsourced our entire fucking economy to China, and we're still doing a poor job of really shoring up manufacturing back. So anyway, that's the craziness of the wars going on. And then I'll also say, dude, what is going on with some of these people online here? Like, some of these people that I'm mutuals with, I wasn't particularly friends with some of these people, and this isn't to like, I don't know, like passive aggressive, do some kind of, oh, look at this drama that happened. I won't even say names in any way, but it's just like, everyone's such a tough guy. First of all, I don't even understand the premise of, you go online, you go on Twitter, you're going to see things that you disagree with, and you're going to have friends who don't share every single opinion that you do. Like, I guess this needs to be said. I guess we have to go back to third grade, and we have to understand this, because we're all such tough guys with, I can handle disagreement, and I can handle what I disagree with. But it's sort of like, what I'm observing is that people do and think and feel and say this in the context of checking this frame rate thing here. It's really sort of irksome. they do this in this context, or they're imagining that they're like disagreeing with some libtarded retard with some normie tier, very easily debunked opinions and very like low IQ stuff. Like that's what they're imagining. So they're still imagining it's fucking easy. So they're waxing tough guy with this. Oh yeah, I don't care. I disagree. But freaking facts don't care about your feelings, and I'm like high IQ, so I can handle the disagreements. And then it's like when they come across somebody who's, I guess, sort of like on the same side of the internet or the political aisle, but disagrees on something because they have a rich analysis of it. Like these people get so fucking baby uncomfortable with their gay little schemas deconstructing. I guess this is some psychology here to segue into our usual psychology. These baby little fucking dorks, they have their little precious schema of the world. And you might hear me go over this analysis here. Their precious little schema of the world. It's nice and neat and organized. And from organizing it, they get to extrapolate that they're smarty pants and a tough guy ego sensation. And they need to do that. You need to do that when you don't feel adequate because you haven't been living up to your morality, keeping your promises to yourself. And so when that schema deconstructs through a, deeper, richer, sophisticated analysis and argument for something you disagree with or something you don't like, it deconstructs that schema, and now you don't feel like you're such a smarty pants anymore because that smartiness pantsness was dependent upon having everything right. And so now it seems you don't have everything right. So now that's deconstructed. And now you're also living in the terror of living in a world that you don't fully understand, which I've gone over is a fear because there's the dangers in and of themselves. And then now in the unknown, you're afraid of the ensuing danger to your feelings, sensibilities, egos, in that you're not, without the information, without the intelligence, you're not able to prepare yourself or ward off or defend these threats to the ego and sensibilities. So I've been watching this. It's like, what is fucking wrong with you? And it's like, it'll be an unfollow or something, or just like this really bitchy, passive aggressive stuff. It's like, can you people, it's remarkable how much everyone everywhere is putting on such a fucking act, and really how much everyone everywhere is so obsessed and compulsed with themselves and their precious gay insufferable little schemas. You can just have hurt feelings. You can just have you could just feel dumb. Sometimes I feel dumb, and you could just feel that. Sometimes you could be mad, and you could just fucking feel that. Nothing actually happens. You could just feel what you feel. As a matter of fact, that's part of existing, and that's part of processing any sort of discontent or anything along those lines, is just feeling what you feel. And so it's beyond insufferable in that way, that everyone everywhere is just, it's such a disrespect. I've said this before. It's such a disrespect to your agency and disrespect to the gift that is your unique identity, life force, and your mandate to be something in this world. And I don't mean that in terms of like the usual image of tangibles and success broing or being rich or anything like that, but just being you and playing your role in the world that's inconsequential to your feelings and impulses and all of that, and just doing your part as a spiritual identity fucking mandate. So anyway, that's a little bit of our prelude there of some thoughts and all of that. So now, so the video, this guy, now, one of the reasons I wanted to do Marchese Methods is I wanted to meet and come across and help these types of guys. We're so used to this, beta this, and freaking, yeah, you're not standing up to women, you're a freaking pussy, this type of stuff. And while there are these types, let's make a distinction here. There are these types who do that because it is like a real worship of women. It is a tangible, real, palpable worship of women, and it is a subordination of the self in that they consider themselves authentically that they're beneath others, and it's not even like they're worshiping women, they're worshiping pussy. Like they're worshiping white sticky peeing. They're worshiping getting to make their penis feel good and their ego feel good and the affection of a woman making them feel good. It's amoeba, it's single cell organism like. And so there's something like offensive to that, offensive to one's sensibilities, and it's offensive to agency, it's offensive to free will. And these guys, they sort of provide fervor with it. They're fervent about it. They're like trying to justify it. They're trying to say that's real, that's authentic, and that's an actual valuation. That's how you're supposed to live. And it also poorly influences other people. So there's those guys. And then there are the guys that are sort of timid, weakened, and berated. And their whole lives, they've been treated with this sort of beratement and disrespect before they could even have a chance to build themselves up. It's sort of natural where if you were treated in this way as a child, even all the way up through adolescence, you're going to receive that as that's where you belong. That's where your role in this world. And this timidity stems from this presumption that this real presumption and this real low self-esteem bestowed unto them. That is, they're not worth the time. They're not worth the energy. They feel like their existence imposes upon others. They feel like their existence is a burden. And these guys, it's not this like beta-esque, inauthentic worship or something along those lines. It is, these poor guys like really are miserable, and they are sad, and nobody's looking out for them. Nobody's treating them any better. And they earnestly just don't know what to do. They're convinced that that is their life. That is where they belong. They sort of are convinced, I'm not that guy, or something like that. They'll say things like, I'm not that guy. And they don't believe in themselves. They don't think highly of themselves in this way of like they've accepted it in this sad way. Whereas these other types, they don't think highly of themselves, but they rationalize and they excuse and they bully others and they feed themselves in this way. These guys just are sad, and they are low self-esteem in a richly authentic way. And so when you come across these guys, knock it the fuck off with the beta bullying type stuff. They know that what they are. They know that they come off that way. They feel that way. They felt that way their whole life. And they deserve better. They deserve guidance. They deserve mentorship. They deserve someone somewhere at some point sparking them to believe in themselves by believing in them. And I know this sort of waxes like Hallmark, feel good and everything, but there's an element of you need to do it yourself, but sometimes these guys are so deep in a hole that they don't know how, and they entirely don't think it's possible in a actual way instead of like a copy way. And so berating these guys isn't the fucking answer, or some faggy sort of like, oh, well, he needs to freaking gain some self-respect, man. Hey, man, you need to freaking gain some self-respect. This sort of hostile, aggressive lecturing, that doesn't fucking work, and that's not real. You do that to somebody who's being dishonest. You don't do that to somebody who's just like shoulders hunched and sort of they don't understand. That's like not the fucking point. I'll just tell like a little bit of a story as an example. So roughly in 2017, I met this guy. I had both a week job and a weekend job. On the week, it was lifeguarding, swim instructing. On the weekend jobs, we were lifeguards at this HOA, one of those setups. And he was this soft-spoken, sort of timid guy. And what struck me about him was that it was just sort of who he was. Like in that way, he was like what we call beta, but in this way that's authentic, and in this way that's not really worshiping others, but more so just considering himself beneath others. But he wanted more. He wanted to be better. He just didn't understand why and how to do it without, I guess, sentencing himself to these sort of conflicts, these sort of issues. And so, but I exemplified otherwise to him. I exemplified to him what it meant to cross that threshold of standing up for yourself and having that confidence and having that self-esteem. And throughout the entire summer, while I was on the lifeguard chair, while he was, we would just bro out. And we would bro out. And one of the things I taught him was, you can just do this. Like, you can actually seriously do this. You can believe in yourself in that way. And, of course, I told him about how it starts with the gym. And it starts with just reconstructing these schemas. Like, no, you don't actually have to take that from somebody. No, you don't actually have to let somebody talk down to you. There's the tricks of the mind of, well, conflict is scary because it places us at the risk of ostracizing and alienation in the hunter-gatherer group. But, and these tricks of the mind of like femtarded worship and stuff like that. But fundamentally, you can just like operate in your own way. And throughout the entire summer, what really was, he started going to the gym and everything, and he had this girlfriend to whom he sort of answered to. And he was sort of smirking about how she was picking up on him sort of reinvigorating his masculinity like that. And it's funny, she was liking it, but she was also knowing that inevitably it meant that the nature of their relationship was going to self-destruct because they're relating in a fundamentally different way that may not be how they should and can relate. And she also knew that it meant that he wasn't like the safest bet anymore because he was now going to attract other women and attract status. And so throughout his time, like eventually he broke up with the girl and he sort of walked every day now with his head held high and with an understanding of living by himself because you don't have to live by others. And I think my favorite memory, and this was 8 years ago and I remember it like it was yesterday, he texted me one day and he says, yeah, dude, like I was in the supermarket and I saw this girl and I literally could feel it within myself. I did not care how it went. I did not care if she just flagrantly rejected me or something like that. It's the fact that I'm able to walk up to her, say hello, just give it a try, something like that. And he said he did, and it didn't really, it sort of fizzled away and all that, but he literally like was overjoyed that he was able to do that he managed to get himself to do that. And it's not even about pickup. It's not even about that. Understand that it is about just doing that. And even if you feel rejected, that's just a feeling. And you're able to withstand it anyway because you're grounded in who you are. And this seems all like old, trite platitude stuff. But like, I suppose that there's also an element to it where you have to feel it within your heart. I'm always like anti-feelings with a lot of this stuff. But for an actual switch, an actual transition, you have to feel it within your heart. And he felt it. And so he did that. And later that evening, he was like a madman. He said he went to the club by himself and he just like socialized. It wasn't even necessarily about pickup or women per se. It was about socializing and watching himself just sort of present who he is. And it was fulfilling to really be a part of that. And so amongst these guys, like, it's our responsibility to also extend our hand out, to lift them up. To lift them up. This beta stuff, it's in service of berating these authentic people, berating these people spreading toxicity, berating these people who are trying to prop themselves up inauthentically as the correct ones with that sort of thing. It is these characters that are wrong. These characters that are fundamentally wrong, and they understand they have a low self-esteem, but they've constructed a image, and it's to the detriment of others. It is often berating others. It's like bullying, essentially. The actual bully, like, bullies have low self-esteem, and in a way, once they stop their fucking bullying, we will have compassion for them. But in the meantime, those are who we were berate. But we don't fucking berate the people who are low self-esteem and struggling and miserable and depressed and sad, that aren't bullying others, that are just, in a way, like, trying to figure it out. So knock it the fuck off with this obsession and compulsion with berating people and calling them beta in service of yourself. Now you're the fucking bully. So anyway, I thought I was going to have a lot more to say on that, but I don't. So in the meantime, my other thoughts went to this other thing. So, LOL, international women being retarded last week online. So now, but this extends sort of in a way out of that. I'm going to step outside of that, but it was prompted by that. Women doing this meme of, men used to freaking die for this, that, the other thing. Maybe I already said this, but perhaps there's an element to this of it is this appeal to men through this vague image of masculinity in the military. And it has this image really reducing to one thing and one thing only, and that is emotional resilience. This sort of vague idea of, well, we're experiencing emotional hardship of our friends getting hurt and dying, and the emotional hardship of subjecting ourselves to this danger in a way where if we aren't rational, we could get ourselves killed. And therefore, being in the military trains you to establish that rationality and establish that emotional resilience. And that's all fine and dandy, but that neglects that there's a constellation to masculinity, a constellation of traits. And one of those traits, remarkably, somehow we forget, is insubordination, is this leadership type stuff, is this capability to take risk in that way of leading the tribe, leading the group, by leading yourself, by going to do things pursuant to your agenda, pursuant to yourself, pursuant to hunting and gathering. And so somehow we forget that part. And the problem with that part is when you're in the military, you have subordinated your entire existence to a fucking political regime, especially in the modern day political regimes that in no way, shape, or form even remotely intersect with your interests. The political regime and what it tells you to do when you are a soldier is completely and fully mutually exclusive to what it would actually mean to be a soldier for your country. And that is provision and protection of the homeland. We're not actually fucking doing that when we fight fucking regime change wars for Israel in the Middle East. And even like vague policy, like unfortunately we do need a military and we do need to secure the Western sphere of influence, but that's so distant from like what it really means to be masculine in the military, and that you are doing this because you have like a warrior, you're a part of the warrior class of the group, you're a part of the warrior class of the country. And it's distant from that masculinity. It's very much like a if there was like a spectrum of like what activities are that masculine, with 10, let's say, being your whipping out a firearm and standing out in front of your house to protect your house and your family, and one being this stuff. That's what it is. It is very like it's low XP pursuant to this element of masculinity of being a part of the warrior class, protecting the homeland and fighting in that way, and emotional resilience. Because this emotional resilience stuff, so you're subordinating yourself, you're subordinating your entire life. And what is that pursuant to? That's pursuant to the image of masculinity. That's pursuant to fucking pussy, too. That's the pursuant to what people tell you masculinity is. And if you subordinate your life like that, you are so neglecting the leadership element of masculinity that it's actually pretty emasculine, especially when it is this image stuff, especially when it's what people tell you masculinity is. And as far as this emotional resilience stuff, people also do this meme of linearizing it too far and always pushing to the right with that, always pushing to the right. But with this emotional resilience and like the ability to withstand physical pain, it begs the question of, okay, how far are you pushing this? Because like, what are you gonna, why don't you just like cut your leg off now to prove how tough you are? Like at some point, when does this become like your diminishing returns? At some point, when does this become this is like pathological, this is neurotic? When does this become, now you're not really, because now you're just flagrantly hurting and disrespecting yourself? The withstanding of pain and discipline and everything and emotional resilience, you do that to the point of it doesn't like damage you, or it doesn't bring you across a point where you cannot recover from it, because now you're just damaging yourself. And it also has to be in service of an actual goal. So it's like emotional resilience so that I'm better equipped to run for office or pursue success, or better equipped to handle the failures that come with building a business or something like that. It has to be in service of an actual pursuit, and it has to be such that you can recover from it. And it can't be pursuant to an image. That reminds me of this other element where there's also this linearization, this endless edgelording stuff that I tweeted about yesterday, where it's, oh, look, Erica Kirk had a tramp stamp. And this is an example of these fucking dorks vaguely sensed, before the study came up, vaguely sensed that in interpersonal dynamics, we all vaguely understand that it's masculine and it's higher testosterone, to be disagreeable. Why? Because disagreeableness is a consequence of testosterone, but why does testosterone make that so? It is because maleness, masculinity, that all places you, or disagreeableness means that you're able to think independently and you are able to withstand the shame of the collective group of sheep. And what does that mean? That means that you can operate rationally, which means you're more capable of warding off danger and hunting and gathering. You are not subordinate to your feelings. You will not place your feelings and the danger of you above that of the group. And there's a masculine congruence in that from that emotional resilience. You are like opposite of effeminate because you're not beholden to feelings, and feelings don't place something within you. And it signals that you are resilient in that way, in furtherance of this hunter-gatherer stuff. But of course, everyone vaguely senses that absent the studies, and then dork fucking low IQ retards read the study and then just artificially insert themselves as disagreeable every chance they get to reverse engineer a image of high testosterone to grant them access to pussy. So now there's this faction that linearizes that and then endlessly edgelords. This is the problem of like Nat Sock LARPing and this problem of this Erica Kirk thing of endlessly signaling, oh, look at me, I'm going to do the thing that hurts everyone's feelings and, uproars the sheep, upsets the apple cart, because that way I can signal to everyone or everyone can perceive me as high testosterone. But when it is pursuant just to that in and of itself, and it's not even really like an authentic, like, oh, I'm going to train myself to withstand this, when it's just doing that for its own sake, it is inauthentic, it is juvenile, it is, dare I say, insecure, because it comes from a place of not really having a grounded masculinity through one's own behavior or through withstanding shame and withstanding the group opinions pursuant to an authentic holding of opinion. So, for example, this Erica Kirk thing, why does that happen? Why does that arise? Well, it's because she's a sensitive person to criticize right now. So we get super high edgelord points by criticizing her in any fashion. But obviously, what is the point we're making here? Oh, she had a tramp stamp or has a tramp stamp. Oh, okay, so what? Women are retarded? Like, what does that construct? What does that pursue, or what does that say about the Charlie Kirk murder? Is that some sort of conspiracy? No, it doesn't even prove a point, and it doesn't even make an authentic criticism that's both a combination of signaling disagreeableness, signaling the ability to withstand shame, and an actual investigation into her and the nature of her marriage and everything. So I said on my tweet, that's like, well, if we were saying something, though, that marriage is a little suspicious. It almost seems arranged. What's the deal with how fast it was? I don't even know the details, but just for example, in this way, suddenly they met and she's connected in this way and he's connected in that way. That's where you could start positioning or painting the picture of some kind of like inauthentic marriage or something like that, to then say, well, the nature of it is political. But even then, what is that supposed to imply? Yes, marriages can get political. So that's an example, too, of this endless edgelord linearizing masculinity. And if you feel the need to endlessly push it that way, what that is it's pathological, because it is, instead of being grounded somewhere on the spectrum of masculinity, it's not having any grounding. So the only way to ground yourself is to endlessly distance yourself, is to endlessly progress, endlessly distance yourself from femininity. It's like never being rich enough. You always need more and more money, because that's the only way you can secure yourself, because you always feel like you're poor or something like that. So it's this endless edgelording in a similar way to the endless emotional resilience, all pursuant to an endless image and pursuant to an endless distancing oneself from femininity. Like that's why I resent some of these beard and boobs dorks. Like they literally think, okay, well, hair on face necessarily crosses the binary threshold or masculine or feminine, because women cannot grow hair on their face. And therefore, more hair equals more masculine. And therefore, I get to feel like a tough guy if I have a big beard. And all of that absolves me of any responsibility of sequestering impulse, disciplining myself, doing what doesn't feel good but is good. I get to drink my beer and have a disgusting fucking gut because I have a long beard. There's a constellation to masculinity. There's emotional resilience, discipline, leadership, pursuit of truth, Renaissance skill development. And I would say those are the main ones. And it's not even to make this gay centralizing point of balancing them per se. But that is to say that all of these things deserve investment, maybe one more so than the other at current time frames. But it's like this excuse of, well, if I level up in one of these things, if I level up purely in emotional resilience, I'm excused from leveling up in any other way. And that is in furtherance of being lazy and being a baby, which is ironic to fully level up your emotional resilience in pursuit of excusing yourself from the emotional discomfort of other pursuits. So it is a constellation wherein everything deserves investment, not necessarily doing this centralizing thing. You're going to do one more than the other sometimes. But you're not excused. You're not excused from any of them. And you also have to evaluate whether it is a pathological investment in one, so much so that it's actually self-inflicting, that it's damaging. So, low steam today, huh? I guess I'm not really as well done here. I'll say, I guess, adjacent to that in a way, I'll try to connect the dots on it a little bit. I also saw this post where this guy, he's like, selfie, and he's like total mediocrity in terms of his shape, and it went viral because he's like, I don't care. Why should I get in shape? I already get pussy because I'm rich, and why the hell do I care? And everyone took rightful offense to that in a way where they understand there's more to the gym than just getting pussy, but nobody articulated it. And the articulation is that it's not like, oh, well, because XYZ health, because they can always come up with a cope with that. They could always cope and say, well, duh, I'm healthy. Because you people conflate healthy with sexy. So that's one. Two, they are also vaguely saying something like, well, I'm challenging myself or something like that. And they're getting close, but then he gets to say, well, okay, I challenged myself to get rich. And so what is actually going on? What is the fundamental valuation of the gym that is transcendental that you can never excuse yourself from? The valuation is that it is the most direct conflict with your instincts that try to enslave you. Your instincts to feel good, your instincts to indulge, your instincts to be indolent. Because that is, amongst all your instincts, that is like the grounded most instinct above all else, the optimization of energy, because that is, you have to survive before you reproduce. And so that instinct, above all else, occupies tremendous space in the instincts of your brain, in your brainstem, and all of that. And it is the most consequential, direct roadblock to masculinity because you answer to that instinct. And this is making me think before I forget. This is one of the fundamental issues amongst relationships too. I saw this stupid fucking retard woman tweet be like, what? I mean, if a woman leaves a man because she wants to do better elsewhere, I mean, it's wrong, but I would rather her go somewhere where she's happy instead of somewhere where she's miserable. And there's a problem amongst everybody, but particularly women, where it is optimization of energy. People place this in relationships as well. And so when women get into these relationships and have some kind of expectation, they get mad and they get upset and they get displeased because it is they don't get to have their cake and eat it too. And so they search for it elsewhere. It's also operating on that pleasure and pleasantry instinct, getting into a relationship, especially with this honeymoon phase type stuff, right? Like that's code for, I think relationships are a euphoric drug to feel. And when it doesn't feel like that after the first, whatever, week or 2 weeks or whatever, the relationship must necessarily be wrong and I'm dispassionate and displeased and therefore I have to go find a relationship somewhere else. And that is all like optimization of energy as well, because those signals for pleasure tell us that we're optimizing our energy. And so, in terms of the gym and the masculinity element to that, you defeating that, like one of the main reasons men don't feel like they're men is they listen to that instinct. They answer to that instinct. It places them beneath that instinct. They are beneath their feelings. The gym is the one fucking answer to defeat that. The gym and eating at least relatively disciplined are the only fucking possible answers to that stuff. Because it is the expounding of energy, the expense of energy, despite not feeling like it. And when you train yourself that way, you cross this threshold of transcendence. You cross this threshold of understanding what it means to have a nourished spirit and soul, regardless of the consequential feelings. It is joy. It is fulfillment. It is evaluation of the gift to challenge yourself in and of itself. The gift also to just the gift of your body as well. Because lifting weight, people want to do Muay Thai and stuff like that, or regularized exercise. That's a training of your heart, which is evaluation of itself. But your muscle tissue, like your body, belongs to you. That is you. Your arm, that is a part of you. That is you. That is your identity. And so rightfully, a true self-esteem is to treat that with the respect it deserves by taking care of it through building it, through weightlifting, through building it up, through making it more, through making it better. It is you giving that to yourself. And that is in furtherance of this idea of this self-esteem that is transcendental, that's not neurotransmitters. And so that's the valuation of the gym. It's not the consequences. It's not how late you get. It's not even your physique. The only reason you value your physique element to that, because I always say the mediocre physique versus the sexed up physique, is because you want your physique. You can't escape your appearance. You have an appearance that you cannot escape. So why not? So that in that case, it's not even why not. It is you want your appearance to match your behavior. And so the only way to make your appearance to match your behavior, or match respectable behavior, match disciplined behavior, match masculine behavior, is to build your muscle, is to weightlift, is to sculpt your physique in that way. That is the valuation. I like the literal activity of curling the weight. That is what I like doing. I don't like the way it makes me feel per se. I like the actual task of the lifting weights. Because it is a challenge, because it is a gift that I get to do that in spite of my feelings, in spite of my neurotransmitters. And it brings me closer to God. It brings me closer to joy and fulfillment. It brings me a spirit. It brings me an identity that's not captured by anything. It belongs to me. It is making yourself belong to yourself. That is the value of the weightlifting stuff. And it's complex and it's abstract and it takes a lot to understand. But the best heuristic to start with is you value the thing in and of itself, not the consequences of the thing. Not the consequential feelings, not the consequential access to pussy. That is how you ground your masculinity with that stuff as well. Not that masculinity is the consequence or the pursuit in and of itself, but also simultaneously, the irony is that if you haven't figured this out yet, you really haven't crossed the threshold of transcendence. So although valuing transcendence is like a prerequisite to transcendence. The way that you start is valuing masculinity, is valuing the free will, valuing your capability to do these things. So I think that's running out of steam here. I only have one of my energy drinks this morning, not two, because We got some different energy drinks. We got the Zoa ones, and they don't have as many B vitamins, so they're a little easier to drink because you don't have to urinate every 3 seconds. But we ran out of those because I, coon brain, lap those up, and then we have our traditional Monster Rehabs, but not the berry ones, the green tea ones. And so I drank one of those, but they're a little heavier or harsher to drink because they're inundated with B vitamins. So I'm going to have to fix this. I see on my OBS here that it says the frame rate's dropped. Now I just clicked on it and now it's back up. So maybe it oscillates now. So I'll have to sort that out. So excuse me. Do your best, all right? Hey, have some discipline. Marchese Max, watch the actual stream. Watch it fully. Bump up the views. I don't think we had too many people today. I see 10 on my reporting here. So I'm going to stand by for a moment. I only see a handful of you guys. What happened, everybody? I'm going to stand by for here in case anybody, if you're in the video right now, hop on over to the space if you have some thoughts, questions, comments, concerns. My throat's itchy. In the meantime, I'll check my notifications if anything is making me think. So, dude, with politics, dude, you guys gotta like understand how to, and this is, if you're watching this, my friend, you know, not antagonizing you and all that, but left and right isn't real. Like, the right wing is infiltrated. If you endlessly vote for the right wing, it's the problems now. It's the problems of neocons now. Yeah, it's linearly slightly better than the left wing, but it's not. You have to be willing to lose the election for the right wing to antagonize them, to force them to answer to the voter base. If you vote for them, no matter what, they're not going to care to answer to you. And okay, so it might suck to have a Democrat president, but realistically, like, your life carries the fuck on with politics. Like, politics is important, and it's gay to be like, how does it affect you personally? But sometimes in a way it kind of is. That kind of is true. Because okay, like when Joe Biden was president, okay, it was gay, and absent COVID, like what really would have happened? Things would have been kind of gay and faggy, which is wrong, and you do decline in that way, but fundamentally, everyone's life carries on. Everyone's life is, for the most part, the same all the time. You eat, you shit, you do your jobs, you try to do something cool, and that's your life. So, all right, I don't see anybody hopping on over into the space, so that's our show for today. Head on over to marchesemethods.com for one-on-one coaching. You could do 1 session or 4 sessions up front for a discount. Marchese Methods at proton.me for access to my Discord for $5 a month, where you can text me all day, every day for advice, thoughts. Entropystream.live/Marchese Methods for super chats. If it even works, I'm not even sure if it works. I'll pull it up right now just to see where I'm at. So that's our show, Marchese Daily, live on the air Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a great